Hello, everyone. Mic check. Can anyone hear me? I'm also checking the chat. Uh, if uh, if the sound is okay, yeah, it's okay. Hello, everyone. My name is David from ComfortClick. I'd like to thank you all for joining me today for today's webinar. I'm gonna start a little slow. Wait for the newcomers to arrive. If there's anyone late, so they don't miss their presentation they will have today. Just gonna give a quick overview what is gonna happen today, what I'm gonna talk about. Sorry. The first thing is gonna be a quick overview of our softwares. So our client, our server, and of course our configurator. I'm gonna do a little overview, a little detailed with our bOS configurator. I know that a lot of users today already use our software, are familiar with it, but there's a lot of new people that are not so familiar with it, and a lot of new people haven't even installed the software. So the first part is going to be a little bit of introduction on how to start, how to connect the controller, how to add the access ID, and so on. Later, I'm going to be talking about the templates, how to add your custom icons, how to change colors. I'm going to be able to show you basic example on how to create a visually pleasing visualization for your clients and so on. I'm also going to be talking a little bit more about the examples that we have. A lot of people that are also currently using our software don't know that we also have free examples available on our webpage. So I'm just going to be downloading one example, importing it into our configuration, and see how it goes. Then at the end of the webinar, I'm going to be basically showing the examples on how to do a lot of things that we get a lot of questions about on forums and ticketing system. Regarding opening other apps within the bOS, how to lock certain frames, hide certain frames for certain users, especially for like smaller children or if you're working with a hotel. And then I'm gonna also show how to do a quick, how should I say, add a little extra features to your buttons to do a form button, should I say, something like that. So we have basically changing a normal button to add a little bit more features. And then at the end, if there's going to be a little more time, I'm also going to be importing a simple KNX project into the bOS. A lot of our clients that we currently have and are listening are using KNX. So we're just going to be using our ETS import wizard to add a ETS file and ETS project into bOS. So to start off, if you want your local machine to be used as a server and you want your devices to connect to the local machine, then of course you're going to be needing our bOS Service Monitor app. It just runs in the background and allows the devices to connect to the computer. If you'll have any questions during the presentation, it's okay to write them down, and I will try to answer them at the end, so we don't lose time, get any confusion during the presentation. The next app that I'm going to be showing you is our bOS configurator. This is the screen that you're seeing right now. And the last but not least app is our bOS client app. This is what I'm showing right now. This is for the end user. So all the screens are going to be, if you connect to your phone, your tablet, your computer, then you're going to be using our bOS client to control the devices that you have in your building. So going back to our bOS configurator, on the front screen, you'll be able to see a list of all of your controllers. If you want to add another controller, you go to the top right corner of the screen, click Add button, and add your controller. So you can either enter your access ID or you can enter your IP address of the controller. So the access ID is a unique username of the controller that you can enter in, and the access ID will then automatically connect to the correct IP. So either you can connect to locally, externally. The access ID will connect to the correct IP every time. If you don't know the access ID, you don't have the access ID yet, so you haven't registered your controller, you can also use our manual configuration. This will allow you to you can also use the find button here. This will allow you to search your local network and find hardware that is capable of running the server. So once the controller is added into your controller list, you can then select it, and the bOS will then connect to the controller. So the first thing that you'll see here is you can see on the left side the building, and the project is a tree-based build. So on the top layer is our building node. On the building node, you have your basic information about your license, your hardware ID, access ID. Additional information can be here. You can also install updates and so on. On the top corner, you have your basic buttons for bOS configurators. So backup your configuration, restore it. You can either import or export part of the configurations. You can also do up, downs, undos, and redos. And at the end, we also have a help button. So this is very useful for any new users that are starting just with the bOS configurator. All additional information can be found here. Basically, with every device, every schedule, every task that we have has a little bit more additional information about this. Moving on, if we go under, as I told earlier, your building is built in a, should I say, a tree built visually. Here we can then change your users, your passwords, your visualization, and so on. And the first thing we need to look at today for today's webinar is also going to be our templates and our files. So these are two very important nodes that we have. So changing on the templates, we have colors and controls. Changing any color, changing any control in here will change the color and icon throughout the whole configuration. So changing the color here for, let's say, lamp from yellow to green will then change the color through the whole configuration. Same goes with the controls. So any Boolean device, any double integer variable might have will then change the text color, the text, and so on. Next thing I'm going to be showing is our files. Here you can add and customize icons that are currently in your configuration. So as I see, you can either add images or sounds. So you can see we have the basic icon they're already in, but you can use the add button, select your image from your computer and add it into your visualization. So for this representation, I've done just that. I've added a simple folder called battery management, and then I created a couple of pictures of batteries that I'm going to be later showing you in the visualization. I'm just going to close this. Just a couple of pictures. The battery is going to change. So the basic example that I'm going to be showing you today is how to build a visualization that will change the icon according to the value of the device. So I just created a couple of images when the battery is from empty to full, and then we'll use these images inside the visualization to display what's the current status of the battery. So that's going to be very exciting. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about that later. To come back with the top buttons that I mentioned earlier, we have our import configuration. So this will basically, as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna import an example that we have on our web page. So I'm gonna open my Explorer, go to ComfortClick.com, and then I'm gonna go to Downloads, and then here you see we have Examples option. So clicking on the examples here, you can see all the information that you need about the examples. If you have any interesting new devices or tasks that you already created in your bOS, feel free to submit them to review. We will then review them, and if it's a viable and a good example for us, we'll then, of course, publish it to our web page, and other people will also be able to use them into in their configuration. So as you can see here, we have examples from basically the whole project, to templates, devices, tasks, and so on. Simply select anyone you want and download into your configuration. So let's say I want to download this system ventilation unit. So simply clicking on, you'll get additional information about the example. We also get a simple manual for the device, and then just simply click the download button, and the bOS file will be downloaded into your system. You then go to your bOS configurator, click the import configuration button, and select the newly downloaded example. So opening the example will then give us a little bit more additional information regarding what is in the example, what all the devices, all the addresses that are already in. So I'm just going to simply select the main node, click the add button, and add it under my devices list. So adding that can then open my devices, and you're able to see that we have the system aerodential unit, ventilation unit already in. This is all the information for the current device. Again, you can use this as an example and tweak it, change it according to your device, to your needs, of course, to satisfy basically all the information that you need about the device. Good thing about most of the examples that we currently have is that they also come with a already built visualization panel. So opening the panel here, you'll be able to see that the visualization for the example is already done. So basically, you can use this in your visualization as well. Of course, everything that you see here is changeable. You can move all the buttons. You can delete them if you want. But it's already ready to use. Of course, you can, like I said, move it, change it around to satisfy your current situation regarding your building and your ventilation system. Now I'm going to show you how to basically create a simple visualization, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, change the icons that we previously added in according to its value of the device. So if I go under my themes here, I'll go under task, and I will create a simple battery variable, an integer variable. So I'm going to name it battery. And most of you know that bOS is very simple to use because we use a lot of drag and dropping options to the visualization. So this is just a blank visualization, and I can simply click my newly created battery variable and drag it into the frame. Click enter, and the battery is already in. For now, this is just a simple battery. You cannot move anything, cannot change it because the background is set to automatic. What that means is if I add more, they'll be automatically added into the frame, and so everything is a little bit more organized. But if you want to build a custom visualization, more SCADA-like features, scale the button and so on, move it to your any direction, basically how you want, you then simply click on the background and select positioning on the right from automatic to free. So changing that will then basically unlock the whole background, and you can then scale, move the battery to the basically the background and the visualization as much as you want. Good thing about bOS is that everything you do here in Configurator is then shown live on the client side. So if I open my client app, I can basically already see the battery button that I created now. So if I change the battery, let's say on the right side now, refresh it, you see the battery is already changed. So all the you can then fit the buttons and the screen how you want it. So you have everything live. It's also a good thing. So let's change this battery a little bit. Let's make it a little bit more pleasing, not just a simple name with a simple icon. So as I mentioned earlier, I made some custom images for the batteries, and then I'm gonna now use. So to do that, first I want to change the battery a little bit. I don't want the current value of the battery and the name itself. I don't want that. I just want to see the icon, so I can then play around with the backgrounds and so on to make it a little bit more, little better, a little more pleasing to the eye. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn show text to false. This will remove current status of the value. And also going to remove the text. So the battery is going to go away. And now we just have this simple icon. So to change the icon, I'm going to click on it, go to image, and then select the icon that I want. Let's say I'm going to scale this so you can see. I want the default image is going to be my blank battery. So if I go to the client side now, we can already see that it's already live. The battery is already on. You can still kind of see the button, So if you want to remove even that, if you wanted to fill in with the background, you can then select the style of the button to from automatic to manual, and change the back color to clear. So we're going to remove that gray bar and just make it more seamless to the environment. So it just basically just fits in anywhere, basically any type of the background that you might currently be using. This could also be, like I mentioned, as you saw earlier, the house, basically any background that you have. So now what I want to do is I want to change this icon according to its value. So to do that, I'm going to select the battery, then I'm going to go under status values. So I'm going to click the button, and currently we have a 0. Basically, we don't have any status values to choose from. So I'm going to add a couple of them. So if I would have, I also have 10 pictures of the battery, so I could use 10 steps. For the presentation's sake, I'm not going to be this long. I'm not going to play around with this too long. So I'm just going to create 5 steps and change the image for every 20% of the battery that's going to be filled in. So let's select our first value, change current value to 20, and let's say condition more than 20. So everything is going to be 20 and more. We're going to use a specific icon. So I'm going to select the icons that I made earlier. So I made a specific icon for 20%, which is, as you can see, almost drained, and select this. So the next thing I'm going to do is let's do 40%, 40 and more. So I'm going to just repeat the step for basically every percentage of the battery. So this is going to be 40%. Going to select the battery with 40% drained. 60. Do the same thing. Greater. Change the icon to battery 60. Going to do the same with 80. Select the 80, and then at the end, let's say equal 100. So when it's 100%, show me the battery full image. So with just a couple of steps that I'll show you now, the battery, the icon of the battery will change according to its value. So we don't need basically additional information, additional texts anywhere around it to display. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. I'm going to change the battery from integer to set point. So I'm going to be able to show you live. I'm just going to drag another battery in. This is just, as you saw earlier, without any additional tweaking, without playing around with just a simple button. On the left side is my battery. On the right side, if I click and change, I'm just going to hide this, change to 20%, you can see the image changes. So the same will go for 40%. It fills up. 60, 80, and then 100 is going to be full. So you can then apply this technique that I showed you now. You can apply this to your visualization in any mean you want. So you can use this not just for battery, you can use it for irrigation, weather like rain, sun, and so on. So you don't need the values. You can just use the icons to show what is currently going on with the device. So like I said, very simple, very easy step-by-step procedure how to do this. Simply change the icons according to its value. A little bit playing around with this. I made it a little bit earlier before the webinar. So I created a special background. I used another image for the background, and I basically created this sort of visualization for this webinar. So it might look quite a lot different from what I've shown you, but the procedure is exactly the same. I just changed the background. I can show you. I use these batteries as a background, change the foreign background to black, and enter this, scale it up, copy all the batteries in, add a little bit additional information, and you can see we can make very, very aesthetically pleasing visual presentation of the current statuses of different basically batteries in this case. So a lot of users, not just newcomers, but a lot of users are already using bOS for a while, are having struggles with, are struggling on how to make this simple button stand out a little bit more. How do I add a little extra features to this battery, to this button? So to do that, I'm going to be enabling form. So basically what I'm going to do is this button would do a couple more things, not just change current status, current value of the battery. I wanted to this button to have additional features. This is going to be a very simple, very quick way to basically improve your visualization drastically. So to do that, I'm going to create another control theme. So it needs to be control, and let's say form panel. This is going to be the name of the frame. So this created a blank frame, which I'm now going to fill in with additional features for that button. I am going to add a couple of new variables. Let's say on and off. This is going to be an on and off button. Let's say it's display to current value, and let's say set value. Set value. Now I can use this blank form that I created, add the little frame, and I can simply drag and drop again these values into the frame. Set value and display current value. And now if I go to the button, I select the button, I enable form, set to true, and I now can select this form that I've just created. So if I do that, and then I could go on the client side, wait for it to refresh. So now if I simply click on the button, I can still control the battery. So everything is still the same, but if I click and hold, it will now open this additional form that I just created. So you can just use the same button to do multiple things. This is very simple. Like I said, a very simple way to add a little additional features to the button. I can also create, let's say, a simple program task. Set the trigger to, let's say, when on and off changes the value. So I can also show you a little bit more about how the programming and tasks are done. So I just set a simple trigger when the on and off changes value. Then I say if on equals true. So when the on and off button is true, then we can set value of our battery, let's say 200. And let's ask if on and off is false, set the value of our battery to 20. So this is now running on in background. Now if I go back on the client side, if the client chooses to press the button and press the on and off button to on, as you can see, the battery is now at 100%. And if the client turns off the battery, let's say the battery will now turn to 20%. So a couple of new steps just to add in, and you can get a lot of greater depth to the visualization, to the buttons and so on, with just by basically adding this form. It's very simple, again, very easy to use. Now I'm going to be showing you basically, I'm going to be explaining on a couple of things that we get asked a lot, especially on forum and on ticketing system. Is that a lot of questions that we get is, can you open another app within bOS? And of course, that is possible. And I'm just going to be showing you how to do that. So in your visualization, you're going to add a general button. You click on general. Make sure you have your start program selected, and click add. This will basically add a simple button to your visualization. Just going to move this a little bit around. I can scale it up. And now all the information here can then be, you can now use this button to open another app. So you can either open a Android app, iOS app, or in this case, it's I'm on a Windows computer, I'm going to open a Windows app. So to do that, all that we need to do is basically we need to specify a path of which app we want to open. So I'm going today, in this example, I'm going to be opening a simple Sonos app. So I'm going to open my Windows Explorer. I'm going to go where the Sonos is by default installed. So C program files Sonos. Here you can see we have the sonos.exe. Copy the path, like the button, and paste it here under program name. I also need to add the exe extension as well at the end, so the program will know which program to open within the Sonos file. So I'm going to add sonos.exe because that's the That's the name of the full name with the extension of the Sonos app. So the last thing we need to do is, of course, we need to enable this option. So the button will open it. So once that is done, I can go on the client side, and if I press this button, the Sonos app will now be open. So again, this can be applied to basically any app you have on computer. If you have a door phone app, if you have, I don't know, irrigation or weathers and so on, this cannot be just for this specific app. It can be any basically any app you want. If you can also tweak this button a little bit around, as I did with the battery, can change the image, let's say to AAV, to audio, so we know it's the Sonos. Can remove the background, the back color, and it just like seamlessly in the visualization. Looks a little bit more better that way. So the last thing, see how are we doing on time? Okay. The last thing I'm going to be showing you today is this part is how to limit certain users, or how to lock certain frames from your users, from your if you have like a hotel, from other clients. Some cases you don't want, if you have like smaller children, you don't want them to control the heating or the alarm. You don't want your children to arm or disarm the alarm. So there's a couple of ways you can hide or lock certain frames in the visualization. So first of all, I'm going to add a simple DSC alarm, and I'm also going to add a blank, let's call it alarm frame. Simply drag and drop again the DSC alarm, and the virtual keyboard is added into visualization. So if I go here, I can then control, it's currently of course not connected, but I can control the alarm here. So if you perhaps have smaller children and you don't want them to have the access to this alarm frame, you can of course use locked options here. So you can simply go from locked to true, and you need to then go to your main frame, not the subframe, but the main frame. And here you can see the option to unlock pin. So here you can then change pin, how to unlock the frame. So if I go on the client side, you can see everything still works, all the frame work. But if I go to the alarm frame, it will require me to have a pin for it. So if I enter the correct pin, the frame will then be unlocked, and now you can then use the alarm. Very similar can be done using different users. So if you have a main user, this is me, the administrator, and you have another user for your, let's say, kids, and the kids are not administrator, they're just users. So change the privileges to user, then select your desired frame, and simply click admin and set it to true. So only administrator will be able to see the user with this administrating rights will be able to see this frame. So if I then give this, I'm still logged in as an administrator. If I log out, log in with my new account, basically with kids account, you'll be able to see that the frame with the alarm is not visible. So you basically do a little discreetly hide the frame for certain users, so they are unable to basically control maybe the heating or the alarm in this case. Similar procedure can be done if you're perhaps working with a multiple rooms. If you have maybe a hotel or something like that, and you have multiple users, you have users for every room, and you don't want specific user from room, let's say 101, to control the devices from room 102. So in this case, I'm going to create, let's say, two users. User, let's say 101, and create another user 102. And I don't want user from 101 to control the rooms for 102. So I'm going to create two new themes. Let's call this theme 101 and another one 102. Now we can have your visualization for every room that it's in. So if you have a floor plan, perhaps have a floor plan for each room, and then the user will only be able to control this room. So to limit the user to control only certain theme, you can then select the user and go to visualization and select desired theme for the user. So in this case, this user is 101. and I select the theme 101. This will allow user 101 to only control the devices that are in 101. And you can, of course, add subnodes to it with maybe additional scenes, but the user will be only able to control what is in this room because I selected in themes. Same will go for the user 102. I will select user 102 and select it. And now if I go to my client side and add this user 101, you'll be able to see that this user will only be able to control the theme and look at the control the theme that is under this certain user. As you can see here, I've selected the user the theme 101, and basically the user can now only control what is in this theme. Basically, that will probably wrap up with the visualization and the webinar for today. I will be open for questions. If there's a high demand for me to show you how to import a KNX project into bOS, I will be more than glad to do that as well. So please comment on YouTube here if you want to see it, and then I will show a quick way how to use our ETS wizard. Also, if you have any questions regarding the webinar that I've showed you today, please write them down and I'll answer them in a minute. I'll give you some time. Please write them down and I'll answer. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am back. Thank you all for the questions that you have. I'll try to answer them as many as possible right now. So I'm just gonna go uh, and select the question that you have. Um, let's see. How can you show how you created the icons? So the icons that I created here were, I think they were done in a while back. They were done in or you can use basically any program you want. You can use Photoshop. You can use any icon generator, icon creator to create the icons. So these were basically handmade, hand drawn uh, icons. You can use, like I said, any program, but if you want to use the icons that we have in our like this, because they have normal and negatives, you can download this icon. This will create a CFG JP file. You can then save it and edit this icon. So and then of course upload it again and maybe replace it or add a new in, so it'll have the same features as the icons that we have already in. Could you explain how to use the show panel command? Okay, so the show panel command, you can use program task for this. I'll create a new program task. Let's call it show panel. And if you have certain trigger, let's say if on and off is true, change value, whatever, then you have to run your user. So you need to select your user. Don't select the themes, because if you select the themes, then and select the function here that I think is show panel, this will not work because this is used for something for any other feature, because the program will not know which user to show this theme to. So you select your user, let's say ComfortClick, and then you show panel and select the desired panel. I think this was asked yesterday on forum or ticketing, so you'll also be getting in a reply there. So as I said, select your theme, select your panel. First, of course, select your user and click OK, and this will then generate the open, basically show frame option. You created user kids. Can all kids log in with one account, or does each kid have their own accounts, like kid 1, kid 2? So basically, you can have only one account, and you can connect as many devices to the account as you want. You can have 10 tablets, 10 phones to the same account. They have only one user, kids, and all your children, all your users will then connect to the same account and will have the same limitations. Is there any specific configuration page which contains logic elements? So logic elements, you mean our program task. If you select, you can use our program task basically to create any logic you want in your visualization. It's very open. You can use if, set values, delays, exits, restart, and so on. But we already also have a predefined task that you can use. So from messaging to scenes, schedules, timers, movement detectors, gate as well, logs, calculations, bit converter, let's say min, max, average. A lot of these tasks were already covered in one of our previous webinars that I made. So you can feel free to browse through our YouTube channel, and you'll find a lot of additional information regarding the tasks. Okay, let's continue our journey. Explain. Okay, can you explain again how you access the pin locked frame? Okay, so you lock a certain frame, as I mentioned earlier, by selecting lock, but then you go on your main frame. This is a sub panel of the main frame. You then select the main frame, and on top right you see, on the right side you see unlock pin. So here you'll be able to change pins for the unlock screen. Okay, can you explain an example of present simulator? I can show you a present simulator. Just going to be a quick show, I think. Again, the present simulator was already covered in one of our previous examples. So if you want even more details regarding the presence simulator, feel free to go there. A presence simulator works very simply. You can enable it on top. You can then select how many lamps you want to turn on each interval. Select your intervals. Intervals are in minutes. And under settings here, you add your devices. So I'm currently don't have any devices, but if you have like a KNX project, any light you have in, you can then select your devices, and devices will be added, and the presence simulator will be then triggered. Let's see, what else do we have? Remote access, how it works. Is it via your portal or via fixed IP? Both, basically. The access ID. So if you use the access ID, this will go through our cloud system, and it will connect to the correct IP every time. You don't need to know if you know the access ID, the correct IP address of the device of the controller is not needed. The access ID will go through our cloud and then connect to the correct IP. If you want to use bOS and connect remotely, you will need to open port 443. That's basically the only thing you need to do in order to connect for outside, and also need to set public IP. So to set a public IP, you go to your building, click edit. So this will edit your controller, and then you set your public IP here. Click update, and then go back to the configurator and click refresh. This will basically set your public IP, and you'll be able to connect and use bOS remotely. Can you introduce us how to make some interworking between two types of technology, KNX light and Z-Wave motion sensor, so on? Okay, this is very simple to use. Again, you add your KNX device. Let's say you have a light here. You can rename this, let's say light 1. Okay. And then you have your Z-Wave or any other, basically any other device. Do I name this call it Z-Wave? You can now add this will be, if you have a Z-Wave device, you can then use all the Z-Wave nodes the device has, like motion sensor, light threshold, and so on. You can then can also use zones. Oh, you can use this motion. You can also use the DSC zone to then trigger the light. So you can use the motion detector task that we already have. So you can then select your input device on the devices motion sensor, and when the and you then select the output value. So the input value is going to be your motion sensor, and the output value is going to be your light. So every time the motion sensor is going to be triggered, the KNX light will be turned on. This motion sensor could be either DSC zone or a Z-Wave motion sensor. So this is basically how it works. You can also use our program tasks and create specific logic and use triggers from Z-Wave or DSC to trigger KNX devices. Mobile ads. Okay, so you didn't show how to integrate mobile apps like the path. How will bOS react when, an example, click done and not a Windows computer on your mobile phone? Okay. I will show you how to do that. So I created this open program button here. This is going to work for Windows. But if you're running, let's say, Android app, then you will need to know the correct parts of URL of the app. So you need to go on. It's not Play Store, is Play Store. This is for Google Play, yeah. And let's open Sonos app. This is the official Sonos app, and you need to copy the last part of URL and copy it into your Android name. So if now you're on, if you're now on an Android phone, if you click the button and if you must have, of course, have the Sonos app installed, the Sonos app will be opened. It's a little bit different than Windows, but it still works. Yeah. Okay. Any sound? We did that. How to use one icon to display multiple status from different inputs. Mechanics inputs tilted, open, closed. Let's see another question. How to use one icon to display multiple status from different inputs? Two KNX inputs for a window titled open close. Oh, so you can then create. You can use our your program task to create. I will show you now how to create the how to use different icons as you mentioned for open and closed. So just created two KNX variables, and I'm gonna create a gonna add a Windows or Windows status folder. This is just a simple folder, so everything is a little bit more more organized. Add status boolean and a program task. Now I'm going to use this program task basically to change the icon. So I'm going to use the closed value as a trigger, and also the opened. So both are going to be used as trigger. And then I'm going to ask if close equals true. And status is just a second. Closed and opened true. And this is going to be set to true. So now you can use different, and then now you can use status. Basically, going to change the image here, and the image will change according to the if it's open or closed. Can you create a button with link to a web page? Yes. I'm going to show you how to do that now. You can just simply use the bOS client web browser, enable it, and then use the browser URL. This will, once clicked, it will then open the URL, the web page, of course. Can we open apps on iOS? Yes, you can also open apps on iOS. For iOS, it's a little bit more tricky because not all the apps have public URLs to use. So the best way for iOS users to open apps is to contact basically the developers of the app, and they're usually pretty cooperative. They usually have no issues sharing the correct URL. You can then open the app with iOS. I'm not sure if how did you access the invisible frame from the Windows client? How did you access the invisible frame? I'm not sure if I understand it. The question. So if you have any more questions, if not, I will be shortly ending this webinar. If you have additional questions, please, you can go to our forums. You can open a ticket in our ticketing system, and we'll be more than happy to show and help you there. Again, thank you all for joining me today. My name was David. Have a good day, and I guess I see you on forums. Goodbye.